Moving forward with films I have not yet reviewed from 2021, we're tackling movies that came out in June of that year. We've got Infinite, starring Mark Wahlberg as one of them, a Rita Moreno documentary, a Netflix animated film with an Aladdin bent as all part of the mix. Let's talk movies. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It, and welcome to my movie reviews for June of 2021. We're going through all of these movies from last year that I have not yet reviewed on the show. We're trying to get to 200 total for 2021, and Oscar season is upon us, so the year is sort of coming to a close film-wise. So trying to get a hold of as many of these as I can before that time. So let's just dive into it. We've got Infinite, Wish Dragon on Netflix, 12 Mighty Orphans, Queen Bees, Rita Moreno, a documentary about her, and then Zola. So you can see pretty much all of these on streaming. I think maybe 12 Mighty Orphans is the only one that is not streaming for free somewhere. But Infinite is a Paramount Plus original, so that, you can find pretty easily if you are a subscriber to that. And I'm just going to go in order of release, and Infinite came out right at the beginning of June, so we're going to start there. So Mark Wahlberg plays this dude, Evan McCauley, and he has these skills that he's never learned and memories of places he's never visited, and they haunt his daily life. So he self-medicates, on the brink of a mental breakdown. Is he schizophrenic? He doesn't know. And he's sought by a secret group that calls themselves the Infinites. And they reveal to him that his memories may be real, but they're from multiple past lives. So this movie, as you may be able to tell just from the basic plot synopsis, is very confusing, and B, a ripoff of a few other movies. Mark Wahlberg is, a fine actor, and he's currently in theaters with Uncharted, which is an okay movie. I think I gave it like a C+ or something. But this movie is a complete jumbled mess. So the main movies that I thought about while watching this, The Matrix is like a clear comparison. And I guess everybody's got Matrix on the brain anyway with the new one being released in December. But the other thing I kind of thought of was Limitless a little bit too, or Lucy with Scarlett Johansson back in the day, maybe like 5-6 years ago. I guess Limitless was even further back, but they had that TV show, so it seems a little newer. But yeah, this is sort of pulling at a lot of those strings. And I will admit that a few of the action scenes were decent, but the stuff between the action is so boring and confusing. And it's just like, where is the story going? I don't even care, because I don't even quite know where we even are in the story. Really makes for some poor films. And let me see who else is in this. I know Chiwetel Ejiofor is in this. Oh yeah, Jason Mantzoukas, the comedian, is in this as one of the Infinites, Toby Jones. So there's a few other people, but yeah, this is a mess of a movie, and it's I've never really heard anything good said about it. It was on the short list for a bunch of Razzie Awards. I'm not sure if it ever got any nominations. It might have been nominated for Worst Picture, though. I'm not quite sure if it's that bad. But yeah, it's just a mess. And Mark Wahlberg is fine, but I am really questioning his range, because he's doing a lot of these sort of, action, sort of dumb action movies, and not really stretching his, dramatic chops at all. He's, adept at comedy. We saw that in The Other Guys years ago. So I don't know why he insists on, still doing these types of brain dead movies, but that's exactly what this is. So I leave Infinite with a D. All right, so up next we are going to talk about Wish Dragon, and yeah, since these are all movies that have been out for months and months now, these are just going to be pretty quick reviews, about 4 minutes each, something like that. So we'll get through this fairly quickly. But Wish Dragon is on Netflix. You can stream that right now. And essentially, this kid Din. who is, just a working class, blue collar kind of dude. He is voiced by Jimmy Wong. He wants to reunite with his childhood friend Lena, who is played by Natasha Liu Bordizzo, and she is now famous. She is like this big model, but when they were teens, they were like best friends, and her whole family was sort of ripped away, on some business, and they became rich and all of this. And so he fantasizes about being with her again when he stumbles across this dragon that emerges from a teapot that he is gifted. And yes, a dragon comes out, and he's a wish dragon, and he's real funny. And he's voiced by John Cho. And so, okay, well, this on the surface seems like Aladdin, right? Yes, and it kind of is. There's really no getting around it. This is sort of the Asian version of Aladdin, but it's actually quite compelling. And it's funny because my buddy Tim and I just did the Oscar nominee video, and we're talking about all the animated movies, and it was like, yeah, the ones that got nominated were all great, and then there's a big drop off between like the next batch, and the only other one I mentioned was Ron's Gone Wrong. But honestly, I could put Wish Dragon in contention. I thought this was a really, really fun movie. I like John Cho. I'm a fan. So his voice acting, I don't know if I've ever heard him do a voice before, but it was very good. He was funny as the Wish Dragon. But what got me the most about this movie is the emotional heft. And I teared up towards the end of this movie. The last like 20 minutes or so is very intense. And there's basically like a lot of guys chasing Din for this teapot because they want the Wish Dragon. The main guy wants to, turn everything into gold, and that classic scenario. So there's some action here. There's certainly some romance because he does, find Lin or what's her name? Lena. Sorry. Voiced by Natasha Liu. But yeah, so there's a little bit of everything here: comedy, romance, action, and definitely some emotional drama. The animation style is maybe not up to par with like a Disney or a Pixar or something like that, but it's a Netflix original. Do we expect the cream of the crop A plus animation? I would say usually we don't. And I don't think we got that here, but I will say, because of the nature of, how colorful the Wish Dragon is, and, a Chinese parade is part of this movie, it does sort of have eye-popping color and design and stuff like that. So I liked that as well. So I leave Wish Dragon with a B+. Very, very good in the terms of 2021 animated films. 12 Mighty Orphans is next, and this is a true story. And it's based on a book about the true story as well. But it's about this coach that comes in, played here by Luke Wilson. And he arrives at this orphan school where, these poor kids are being worked to death by Wayne Knight Newman from Seinfeld. Is just this, taskmaster, and they're all being overworked and underloved and all of that. And so Luke Wilson, as Coach Rusty, creates an alternative football team with some of the orphan boys, and it gives them all hope, and it makes them feel loved, and it makes them feel useful, other than just doing stuff in the Newman factory. But Robert Duvall and Martin Sheen are both here as well. And this it's very generic. I will admit that. I get a lot of like old school vibes for sure, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but personally I got a lot of like old school sort of 80s movie of the week, 70s movie of the week on CBS Sunday nights. We're going to talk about the 12 Mighty Orphans, get a couple of A-list stars to do it, and there you go. So the production values are not very high here. However, I will say, I think the goal of this movie was to make it look a bit old school, because even sort of the sepia tones or whatever you call it in the lenses, like the camera lenses and filters, make it look a little bit older. Not super old. It doesn't look like it's from the 50s, but It takes place in sort of that era, so like I think it did a good job of kind of transporting us a little bit to that time. And the acting, look, it's very good. Luke Wilson, is good as the coach. I've always kind of preferred him to Owen, to be honest. And then Martin Sheen is great, sort of as the assistant coach. And their camaraderie is good. And a lot of the little kid, well, I shouldn't say little kids because they're probably about 15, 16, 17, older teenagers, but they're all kind of, no names. We don't really know who they are, but they all do a decent enough job, and you believe it. And it may be a little bit caricature-ish to put Wayne Knight in as the gruff taskmaster at the orphanage. I would love to see him do a nice guy at some point. It's sort of like, if Newman ran the orphanage kind of thing. So that was, to me, that was like one of the worst parts of the movie. But look, if you're looking for some kind of a feel-good throwback of a movie, I think you could do much worse than this. Generic, yes, but effective, also kind of yes. So I leave 12 Mighty Orphans with a B-. All right, next we go to Queen Bees, and this is, I'm trying to remember, I think this one is on Amazon Prime, but this is one of these movies that its target audience is going to love, and everybody else maybe a little more in the middle, but this is starring Ellen Burstyn, and her house is undergoing repairs due to sort of her own negligence. So she, desperately does not want to sell this house, refuses. We learn that very early on in the movie, but her home is going to be under construction for a good month or more. So she has to move into this nearby retirement community where she encounters a whole plethora of people, including some mean girls known as the Queen Bees, played by some real classics here. Anne Margaret, Jane Curtin, and Loretta Devine. And then James Caan plays the love interest for the character. And then Christopher Lloyd is in tow as well. So, like I said, this is going to be one of these movies that really hits its target demo very well, which is going to be the, over 60 crowd, I guess. Especially, some of these names. I mean, Anne Margaret, I don't know how many movies she's been in lately, but I know her best from the old Flintstones gag when they called her Anne Marg Rock. And I think she was even in the show. So that tells me she was already famous in the early 60s. So, I think her era is bygone for me. Jane Curtin, of course, I know from being an original SNL player and Kate and Ally, and then she was on Third Rock from the Sun. And Ellen Burstyn, I only sort of vaguely know as well. So, this will hit a lot of people in that demo of like, oh, wow, they're still doing it, whatever. For me, it kind of missed the mark in that regard. But I have to say, I did enjoy watching this movie. Now, it does a lot of the generic things that a lot of senior citizen movies do. Oh my gosh, there's a scene where they're smoking pot. What a shocker. It's like maybe 10 years ago, that was a little more shocking, but I've seen it in just about every movie with an elderly person at the center since then. For the last like 10, 15 years, it's always the pot smoking granny, like, okay, but like weed's legal in so many states now and is going to be in all 50, I'm sure, within the next at least 5 or 10 years. So it's like, making movies like this sort of very, very dated, I feel like, especially in senior citizen homes where it's like pretty rampant because a lot of people have medical marijuana cards. But anyway, that's I guess kind of a nitpick, but it's just one more example of like this movie is also kind of generic. And yes, it's gonna aim and hit that target for the older demo. For everybody else, I think they're not going to really enjoy it too much or find too much there. And also, I didn't really see my own parents in any of this. Like a lot of these movies with like older people, even if they're older than my parents, like Exotic Marigold Hotel, I can see like, okay, my parents would, totally have these kind of experiences and do this. And, I don't see my parents in any of these characters. And so even as, 40 something, it was a little bit hard to relate, but look, it's its aim is not me. Its aim is the older crowd, and I think they are going to love it, as the 95% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes proves, whereas the critics' audience is much, much lower. So I'm a bit middling on this movie for sure, but it was enjoyable enough to watch, so I'm going to leave Queen Bees with a C. Up next is going to be this documentary called Rita Moreno, Just a Girl Who Decided to Go For It. And this is available on Netflix now. It's not a Netflix original, but it's there now, so you can check it out. And this is, just what it sounds like, a look at the 70-plus year career of 89-year-old Rita Moreno. Most recently, I guess, on One Day at a Time, the new version of that. Oh, well, I guess most recently, West Side Story, but by the time this movie came out, it was One Day at a Time. Weren't really discussing the new West Side Story, but they certainly dive in plenty to the old West Side Story. This documentary is a bit run-of-the-mill, a bit pedantic for my taste, especially because she's been so in the public eye in the last, say, 6-7 years with the One Day at a Time remake and West Side Story and all of these, Lifetime Achievement Awards that she's been getting in the Kennedy Center honors and X, Y, and Z. So, we've seen her on all these talk shows, and she's told a lot of these stories in that regard. Yes, this movie puts it all together neatly, and there are some that I certainly didn't know, but I wish we had a little more of sort of tumultuous things with her. Yes, coming up, there were certainly a lot of doors closed in her face and some sexual, assault things that she does go into here, which I appreciate. It's very raw and upsetting, but it certainly happened, back in the 50s and 60s. There's no denying that. And we sort of take that journey chronologically in part, and then it sort of jumps around a little bit when we talk about Electric Company and West Side Story, the original, and a lot of that kind of thing. And it's nice. It's a very nice documentary. And there's a lot of really famous, Latinx people who, speak about how great and influential she was. Gloria Estefan and Eva Longoria and her old friend Morgan Freeman from the Electric Company talks, and Justina Machado and Lin-Manuel Miranda, and all of these people, and of course Norman Lear, who was big with her in the 70s, and the new One Day at a Time. So yeah, it's all fine, and I enjoyed watching it, but it's very run of the mill. And I wish there were a little more to it than just, okay, well, let's show her getting all the awards recently, and let's show her, for 2 minutes, her performance on Kimmel being interviewed, and it's like, it's fine, but I watch a lot of talk shows, I watch a lot of stuff like that, so there wasn't a whole lot that was new here, except for the earlier days of Rita Moreno, and they focus some on that for sure, but I would have liked to see more. So enjoyable, yes, but maybe not too groundbreaking in terms of documentary storytelling. So I give Rita Moreno, a girl who just decided to go for it, a B. So let's talk finally about Zola. And I'll be honest, I can't remember where I did watch this one. It might be on Prime. I don't really remember, but you can look for it and check that out. So this is based on a true story. And essentially, this gal, Zola, played by Taylor Page, who is a part-time stripper, is convinced by her brand new friend, played by Riley Keough, to travel to Tampa, Florida, in order to earn money there stripping, and they end up getting in over their head because they end up getting basically sex trafficked and whored out and all of this kind of thing. And this is an A24 movie, and their movies can sort of go, very, very unique and very interesting to straight out bad. That's the production company, A24. And they've done Spring Breakers, which is one of the worst movies of the last decade for sure. But they've also had, some good ones in the mix as well that I've given, B pluses or higher to in the more sort of artsy vein. This started out like a Spring Breakers. The first, I would say, 15 to 20 minutes of this movie, I was pretty sure I was going to fail it. And the same thing happened last month. We talked about Wrath of Man for the April and May wrap up. And that ended up, becoming a C- because I got so involved in the story. But because I have the history with A24 and Spring Breakers, I just thought, is this going to be another one of these Spring Breakers movies where I hate everybody, everybody's so annoying, the acting stinks, the script is just horrible. And part of my issue was because these are real people, modeled after real people anyway. Um, they are very, very in your face, obnoxious, and the main girl Zola is like this big social media, woman. So she tweets a lot. So the little, I can't whistle. So the little whistle though that you hear when you tweet something pops up like constantly in this movie, and it never gets not annoying, but like it's really, really going active those first 10 to 15 minutes. And I wish I could whistle for you to do the example, but if you know Twitter, you know that little noise that it makes. And it was just constant, every not even every minute, like every 20 to 30 seconds for the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the movie. And I was like, this is going to drive me insane. I'm not on Twitter. So, I mean, I am for, this channel and for professional reasons, but I don't have a personal Twitter. So I don't post on it. I don't really go on it and look. So it was just so annoying. But as the story goes on, once they get to Tampa and they start getting trafficked and whored up, it becomes incredibly interesting. And there's also this guy who is the boyfriend of the Riley Keough character. What is his name? I think it's Nicholas Braun. Yeah. He plays Derek, the boyfriend, and I don't quite ever understand his purpose. Yes, he's the boyfriend, but like once they start getting pimped out to people and the pimp like beats him up and all this stuff, I don't understand his purpose. He doesn't have a job. He just, and I'm not satisfied. I don't think it was ever satisfactorily explained what his purpose was. I guess this is based on a true story. This guy really was there, but like, I don't know why he didn't either leave or, make her leave. Like they obviously had ways out at some points, because of him basically. But in any event, this movie turned out to actually be very interesting. And I think the lead actress that plays Zola, again, her name is Taylor Page, who I don't really know, but she's done a few things. But I think she actually came from like the world of dance and reality TV. But anyway, I thought she did a great job as Zola. The girl playing, Riley Keough playing the friend, she was annoying, but but that was her point. So I'm a little torn on that part. But for a movie that I absolutely hated the first 15 minutes of, this actually ended up being pretty interesting, and I think it's going to be one from this year that I do remember for years to come. There's a few like really intense scenes that I think will live on in my brain. So I actually am going to leave this one with a slight positive. It would be much higher if I didn't hate the beginning so much. And maybe part of that was that chip on my shoulder about Spring Breakers, and I was like, is this going to be Spring Breakers Part 2 here? It definitely isn't, so I implore you to maybe give this one a chance. And it's got a pretty high Rotten. I think it's like 80... I don't have it pulled up, but I think it's like 85% or something or higher on that. So that's pretty good. I'm not quite that high on it because of that beginning, but I leave Zola with a C+. So there you go. Some movies to check out or possibly avoid from June of 2021. We're going to keep going through all of these. Most of them are going to just now be one video per month because there's about 5 or 6 movies in each month I want to tackle. And then at the end of the year, I've done so much December movies because of the Oscars and stuff. I think November and December will be sort of into one video, but then that will be it. So as to not saturate my channel, I'm not going to post them every day or every 2 days, but I'm going to watch all these movies before the Oscars go up in a little bit, and then I'll just sort of dole these out, and then I will have my best and worst of 2021 movie video to show for you in April sometime. So look for that as well. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.